All right, we say good afternoon to David Heurtel in for Jimeni for the next little while. And David, today we were told there would be the cabinet appointments. They have been made. A couple I kind of look at here. Tell me what you think. First of all, Eric Girard is staying on as Minister of Finance, but he's also been given another title, Infrastructure Minister. I guess my first question is with respect to Bernard Drinville, who ran against Christine Fréchette. She already made it known that he would get something. Surprised by the fact that he got what he got. He's going to be the Minister of the Economy, Innovation, and Energy, and the Maritime Strategy. I understand the Davie Shipyard is in his riding, but that's a pretty. I mean, he's a super minister. Jimmy I think he gets a cape.
He does get a cape. I am surprised, Aaron, and what this means is the extent to which Christine Fréchette had with this cabinet to absolutely keep not only Bernard Drinville happy, but his supporters happy, and didn't want to see people leaving the ship en masse after this cabinet. Think about this: Bernard Drinville has absolutely no experience in economic matters or energy matters, for that matter. Going back to when he was a minister in the PQ, but in Marois' government, it was all about identity. With Legault, it was education and environment, nothing to do with the economy. But when you look at also the number of supporters that are either keeping their ministry, Sonia Bélanger, for example, in healthcare, and new arrivals around the table, that has now grown to 31 cabinet members around the table. François Legault's cabinet was 29 members, and during the campaign, the leadership campaign, Christine Fréchette had said that she was favorable to trimming down that number in favor of a more efficient cabinet. Well, she actually grew it today, I think that says a lot about the fact that this was as much a external operation as an internal one to try to keep unity within the remainder of the CAQ caucus.
So, I'm looking at some of the other names here. So first of all, Yann Lafrenière, who, remember, I mean, it's not that long ago, he was a member of the Montreal Police Force. He was the communications guy with the force. Yeah. Suddenly he's become, the vice premier. I mean, that's a pretty big kick upstairs.
Well, it's let's face it is a symbolic post. I think for Christine Fréchette, it's a safe choice. I mean, you have to look pretty hard in Quebec, regardless of which political affiliation you have, to find someone to say something negative about Yann Lafrenière. He's done a good job in the last 7.5 years in different posts he's had in the CAQ government. And he's going to keep, it's now called interior security, not public security. And I think it's going to be one of the key components of Fréchette's platform. So I think that's the main thing. But Vice Premier, let's face it, it's always been highly symbolic. And Christine Fréchette is looking also, during question period, there's going to be different faces around her. She's going to have two right next to her. To her left, she's going to have Yann Lafrenière. And the big change, in my opinion, is who's going to be sitting to her right. The biggest change and the biggest headline of this cabinet, in my opinion, Aaron, is François Bernardel not only coming back, but coming back as immigration minister. So that means Jean-François Roberge loses that file. And now he is the government house leader, taking that away from Simon Jolin Barrette. And if I can drill down on this for a sec, how important this is. That means, so a house leader, we don't see it very much, when we look at the actions of the government, but the house leader controls question period, the messaging of the government during question period. Highly important. So that's a major strategic communications position. But also, in terms of, if you look at how much time there's left in the parliamentary session, you're looking at maybe, 6-7 weeks max, maybe she can extend it if she wants to get to Saint-Jean-Baptiste. But we're looking at starting back next week and going on until maybe mid-June. Not a lot of time. And Jolin Barrette, remember, his big bill is the Constitution. By losing the leader's role, he loses the scheduling of the committees that study bills. That's going to be Bonardel's job now, tied obviously closely with Fréchette's office. And also, it's going to be highly important how he manages the next few weeks, because the next few weeks are going to be about passing the budget, the Éric Girard budget. And that period, that time, that's going to take about 3 weeks, where you're going to have senior ministers, some of them, most of them, the senior ministers haven't moved much, but you're going to have a lot of them that are going to be attacked on François Legault and now Christine Fréchette's record. And the irony of this, Aaron, the poetry of this, and this is beautiful and obviously not unnoticed strategically by Christine Fréchette, who is going to defend Christine Fréchette's record as economic development and energy minister under François Legault during the study of the credits for the budget? It's going to be Bernard Dréville. So I find that very interesting in the coming weeks. So Bonardel coming back and having those positions also sends a clear message to Jolin Barrette that the Constitution bill is going to have a hard time getting passed.
Even though she said she would support the idea, did she not?
She supports it, but it's clearly not a priority. In her speech after the naming of the cabinet members, speech that just ended a few minutes ago, she did not mention the Constitution as a legislative priority. And she said during the campaign, and she said afterwards, she said, look, if I have support of at least one more party in the National Assembly, right, I'll make sure that it goes through. Éric jumped on it now that he has one member technically in the National Assembly. He said, I support it. But these signals today show that for Christine Fréchette, it is far from a priority. Anyways, I don't think she'll push it.
By the way, I will point out, I'm sure people recognize the name François Bonnardel. So two things. A, he was turfed by François Legault.
Totally.
And B, he was the Minister of Transport during the CAQ scandal. And now he's like, yeah, well, that's no problem at all. Come on in, you're part of the government.
Yeah, and Bonnardel, to add to what you just said, I mean, François Bonnardel it goes back to the ADQ days. He was one of the remaining members of Mario Dumont's old party, and was one of the first to come in on board when François Legault, one of the first elected members in the National Assembly, to come on board as a member of the Coalition Avenir Québec. So he goes back, way back with François Legault. And so, yes, he was turfed because of the CAQ scandal, but a lot of people felt that Geneviève Guilbeault should have been turfed. And guess who's turfed now? Geneviève Guilbeault.
Well, she's not going to run, right?
She's not going to run, but there are other members of the cabinet that have announced that they won't run. Sonia Lebel, who announced she will not run again,
right, is
still education minister. So obviously, this is not necessarily a criteria for being named a minister in these remaining days of this government. But Geneviève Guilbeault out. And I think that was definitely following her horrible performance that dragged actually the entire government down during her CAQ Gallant Commission testimony.
So just a couple of just quickly before I move on, and I want to get to it, Pascal Derry is now Minister of the Environment after the great job she did in higher education.
Yep.
And Lionel Carman, who I think a lot of people gave credit for walking away from the government over the issue with healthcare, he's back. He's going to be the minister responsible for social services, which is, I guess, that's a positive, right?
Well, it is a total positive. Okay. Pascal Derry, look, I guess, Christine Fréchette wanted to keep her somewhere. It's not like there's going to be a lot moving and shaking. Anyways, it's a safe place to put Pascal Derry because unless there's something I'm not seeing, there's little damage she could do. Okay. And for Carman, well, it is coming back to the portfolio he held basically for almost 7 years, which is social services. And that emotionally, for the cohesion of the caucus, it's very important because he was highly respected and very popular.
All right. Before I don't want to run out of time, this is my question today, and I'm going to bring it back when we get done with this. It's a story, of course, the Léger poll that shows if Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, leader of the PQ, would give up the idea of sovereignty and elephants could fly, then he would win. He would win an election. He would win 39%. He would actually form a majority. And the breakdown of that Léger poll also suggests that now 1 in 2 Francophone voters would vote PQ if that was to happen. What do you think?
It's not going to happen because I don't know if you had time to see this, but Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon actually came out on social media early this afternoon to say there is no chance that will happen. So he's already quashed any doubt on this, and it makes sense, because imagine if he would back away on this, the questions and everything, he would actually lose support. And look, with the results of the Léger poll, this morning's Léger, where now the PQ is back in majority territory. Now, both the Palace poll last week, and the Léger poll show clearly. I mean, the Palace poll is very eloquent in terms of a referendum. 71% of Quebecers, and that's a majority of all Quebecers, but all age groups and all levels, men, women, all age groups, francophones, it's in majority territory, regardless of how you look at it, do not want a referendum, and it's 63% against sovereignty. But regardless, his position and the fact that he is clear on where he stands is actually a positive, because, look, the Léger that puts him ahead and back in majority territory in terms of seats, the Liberals lost 5 seats. When was that Léger done? During the 4 days of the Milliard backtracking on 96. Liberals lost 5 points. Mainly that went to the CAQ. That does not help the CAQ in terms of seats. It helps the PQ.
I just have one question, David, and it's kind of a hypothetical. I was questioning, imagine a guy like PSPP, and we've had a chance, I've met him, spoken to him, as you have as well. He's a nice guy. He's not a hard guy to like. You can hate what he stands for, but I just wonder, and he mentioned this in the clip yesterday when I spoke to him, and he said, it's been 5.5 years that I've been in government. People know me now. I'm a straight shooter, for better or for worse. Do you have a moment, as someone as young as he is, who's been, doing this for, as he said, 5.5 years, who looks in the mirror and goes, I could be Premier of Quebec. I could win the next election based on this poll, and have to think about whether it's time to simply pull back on the message of sovereignty in a referendum at all? What I know of him, and is that is something for him that is simply not possible to consider seriously. It's right now, because again, today he would form a majority government. Now, in his mind, and in the people around him, and I've spoken to several people regularly who are around him, they think in their mind that this is temporary. This is all about Trump. That after the midterms, things will get back to normal. So the midterms in November in the United States, things will get back to normal, and there will be a path during the next 4 years of a PQ government for a winning referendum. That is for Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon how he sees things. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see what our listeners think, because the question really will become, if he was to give it up, just in case, would you consider voting for him, as so many people now say they would, and does that even matter? David, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Unmistakably Canadian.
It's the music that raised you.
The artists raising the bar.
Hi, this is Brian Adams.
Hey, my name's Brett Emmons. I'm from the Glorious Sons.
Hi, I'm Nelly Furtado.
Made in Canada. The station that champions Canadian music.
Loud, proud, and all yours.
No passports required. Just press play.
Tap into Made in Canada now on iHeartRadio.ca
or the free iHeartRadio app.